Colleagues, I rise today to take up Governor's appointment of the Honorable Dr. Shirley Weber to serve as California's Secretary of State. The Rules Committee reviewed Dr. Weber's appointment yesterday and approved sending her nomination to the floor. Many of us have served with Dr. Weber, so you know the reasons why Governor Newsom chose her and why the Rules Committee urges her confirmation. For those of you who may not have known Dr. Weber that long, let me share these 3 items that were mentioned yesterday at the hearing. We heard that Dr. Weber's commitment to helping people vote goes back to the days when her family turned their living room into a polling place so people in the community could have a place to vote. We heard from a representative of law enforcement who sat across the table from Dr. Weber for 2 years negotiating on police reform, who testified to Dr. Weber's trustworthiness and her determination. And we heard from our majority leader who said he almost wanted to vote no, if only to keep Dr. Weber in the legislature. Tempting, but I think we all need to go with the greater good on this one, Mr. Majority Leader. Colleagues, Dr. Weber has the experience and the integrity to make an outstanding Secretary of State. For my part, Dr. Weber has been a respected colleague and a trusted friend for many years. She is a force of nature and a force for good. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise as Chair of the Latino Caucus in support of Assemblymember Weber's appointment as Secretary of State. While the Secretary of State's duties include business licensing operations and maintaining the state's historical archives, her most pressing work is to lead California's vast array of elections operations, setting statewide voting mandates used by elections officials in 58 counties. I believe, in the time that I've known her, that Assemblymember Weber has proven she will do an excellent job. She has justly earned a reputation for taking on tough issues here at the state capitol. She took the lead on contentious legislative fights over police use of force, education, and racial injustice, including recently passing a law to create more strict requirements for when and how police officers can use deadly force. As chair of the Black Caucus, she championed a first-in-the-nation law this past year that requires the state to study and develop proposals for potential reparations to descendants of enslaved people and those affected by slavery. A trio of laws she authored beginning in 2013 increased the enfranchisement of Black and brown men who have been disproportionately impacted by the criminal justice system. Those laws required more voter registration information to be provided to probationers and parolees. In 2016, she chaired the Assembly Elections and Redistricting Committee, and more recently, she was chair of the Electoral College in 2020. For these and so many more reasons, I urge support of Dr. Weber to the position of Secretary of State.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise as the Vice Chair of the California Legislative Women's Caucus in support of the appointment of Dr. Shirley Weber to Secretary of State. Dr. Weber has been a very active and engaged member of our Women's Caucus for the past 8 years and is admired, as everyone who has spoken so far has indicated. The key roles of our Secretary of State is overseeing and ensuring accessible and secure voting system that protects and expands the voting rights of all Californians. In addition, the other key role is the overseeing of corporate and business filings and campaign and lobbyist financial disclosures. The Women's Caucus and I cannot think of a better person to entrust that duty than Ms. Weber, whose father and grandparents could not vote. And she grew up with deep respect and commitment to the sanctity of protecting the vote and the power of exercising that vote. Her family home was a polling place from when she was a child. The integrity that Dr. Weber has exhibited in her public service should give us all great confidence that the additional roles I referenced will be done with efficiency and with the diligence that they deserve and require. Dr. Weber is bold, courageous, does not suffer fools, and will, as I am sure we are all confident, administer her duties as Secretary of State in a manner that Californians will respect and admire today and for years to come. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I am honored to rise today to speak in support of Dr. Shirley Weber's appointment to the California Secretary of State. I had the honor of working with Dr. Weber with so many important issues as it pertains to education and equity, and there wasn't a time that I didn't learn something from this amazing leader. She is an incredible leader and a fighter who will continue to protect the integrity of our elections, and she will also be a fierce advocate for our youth and continue to push and support civic engagement. Dr. Weber is the first African American to ever hold this seat, so for me, this is an extraordinary moment for all of us. I rest assured that she will work tirelessly to ensure that all voices are heard and that every vote is counted. As a former teacher and longtime educator, it just gives me great pride to see her rise to the ranks of Secretary of State, and I know that all my fellow teachers are also as proud as I am today in this moment. So I respectfully ask for your aye vote for Dr. Shirley Weber for Secretary of State. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Pro Tem. I stand also as I stand on behalf of the LGBT Caucus to speak in support of Dr. Weber's Secretary of State today. I had the pleasure of coming in 2012 with Dr. Weber. It was many of a big class. We all came in together, and I'll never forget her standing up and talking about she didn't come here to make friends. She had plenty of friends at home. She had plenty of colleagues, and she was here to do the people's work. And that is certainly what she set out to do. And I think so many of us took heart and took courage. Every time she raised that mic, we sat down because we knew she was going to use that gift that was given to her by God and her ancestors to be able to speak so that we could all hear. And listen, we did. And we also heard her very eloquently say no to so many of our friends that sometimes we don't have. People speak about her brilliance. I'd also like to just speak about her courage and her ability to know what the North Star is and what she came to do. And whether that it was saying no to our friends in the labor community, which is issues of education, because she was very, very clear. Education should be there about the child, about raising that child and removing every barrier possible. She was relentless with that. Whether it's criminal justice reform and sitting down with our friends in law enforcement and finding ways to come to that common agreement. Whether it was issues around civil justice issues and still being able to use her voice. I sat in the back of the room with her. There was many of us of over a certain age that sat in the back and would share and think about the work that is done on this floor, the grace that is given, the conflicts that occur, and how sometimes we just need to be able to sit up in the balcony and look down from a perspective of history and to know where we need to go and to do everything in our power to get it to that place. And I don't think there's anybody in the state better prepared to step into the position of Secretary of State to lead us in the next couple of ways to ensure that everybody's rights, the voting is protected, that confidence is restored. With all that is, I ask for the conferment of Dr. Shirley Weber to the position of Secretary of State and to continue to use her great gifts to all of us.
Members, seeing no further discussion or debate, Senator Atkins, would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam President. You know, colleagues, we don't often get the opportunity as a legislative body to take this kind of action. So it is a special day, and I appreciate the well-earned, well-deserved, and very accurate comments from my colleagues. I especially appreciate the stories. I certainly wish we could tell many more of them because I know that we all have special stories. I did not recall, to my colleague from San Diego, that 88 election. I was there, and it's where I first met Dr. Weber, but I really didn't remember that, so I love the history. The best gift I have ever received was the gospel night in the assembly, hearing Dr. Weber and Ms. Olson's voices rise above the others. It was a very special gift, and I still listen to it because they sang so well. But to close, I want to paraphrase something that I said yesterday. I believe the state budget is really the most important responsibility that we have as a body. When I was speaker and needed a budget chair, who could match that awesome responsibility? Dr. Shirley Weber was the right person for that job. Being the state's chief elections officer is an awesome responsibility. And as has been true so many times in so many settings, Dr. Shirley Weber is the right person for the job. She is the right person to champion, as she said yesterday, the sacred democratic act of voting. And with that, I strongly urge an aye vote from each of you. Thank you, Madam President.